Hey everybody, we're the Menschwarmers. I'm Jamie. I'm here with my co-host Gabe. Gabe, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. You know, it's a bright and beautiful fall morning in Toronto, something we can say for the first time in 32 years, where the World Series is being played in the city tonight.
Yeah.
I got some nachas. I'm pretty excited. This is really big deal.
Game one of the World Series is happening a walkable distance from us, and Bruce Springsteen's Electric Nebraska released all in one day, Gabe. Could you have ever dreamed this in your wildest dreams? This is, if you got to golf today, it would really be a perfect storm.
It would truly be a perfect storm. And I don't want to say that I'm golfing after this, but I might be. Who knows? Who can say?
We'll see.
It's a beautiful day. It's very exciting. You know, we've sat through a lot of bad baseball in our lives and a lot of dark years in our lives. And, you know, there isn't much Jewish leadership or players with the Blue Jays this year.
Right.
You know, if you remember at the very start of this year, friend of the pod, Spencer Horwitz, was traded away from the Blue Jays. He was the most Jewish thing about the team, other than the fans. Lots of Jewish fans. You know, the Rogers C-suite, not a lot of Jews. Mark Shapiro, however, he, you know, the president of the team is Jewish. We've got a Yid sort of at the top of the food chain within the Blue Jays, and he's going to celebrate with the team. He celebrated with the team when they won the pennant. What an exciting week this is. World Series starts tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are a few Jewish connections we can talk about in terms of the ownership groups, people who have been involved, various years. You know, the Guggenheim baseball management. You know, obviously Mark Walter is not Jewish, is the main figurehead, but there's other people who have been involved. Billie Jean King and her wife, Ilana Kloss.
Yep.
I don't know if Billie Jean. I don't know how Billie Jean King identifies, but her wife is certainly Jewish.
She's certainly Jewish and proud Israeli as well.
Yeah, and competed in Maccabi Games. There's other people involved with the Guggenheim Group, but for the most part, I would say not a ton of Jews involved in the World Series. But big caveat here: this is a World Series between the Toronto Blue Jays and the LA Dodgers, and the best player to play for both teams, and by this I mean not the greatest Blue Jay, not the greatest Dodger, but the greatest Blue Jay / Dodger of all time,
Dodger,
without a doubt, is Sean Green. And you can.
So it's the Sean Green series.
It's the Sean Green series. You know, I think there's Sean Green fans on both sides. But if you look up, and I will never not extol the virtues of Baseball Reference as really just like where I've learned more, gotten more knowledge from in my life than anywhere else in the world. But Baseball Reference has a great feature where you can look up players who played for both teams. Sean is the only player to hit 100 home runs for both the Blue Jays and the Dodgers. He's the only player with more than 10 wins above replacement, if you prefer that as a stat. You know, he had 6 great years with the Jays. He was on the 93 team just as a September call-up, I believe.
I know.
And then 5 years with the Dodgers.
We need to get a Dodgers fan back on the show. Maybe we can find Max Homa again and ask this, because I promise you Max would know the answer to this question. Was there a debate in LA about which synagogue Sean Green went to? Just like there was in Toronto.
Right, because that was always the joke when we were kids. Everyone claimed Sean Green had gone to their synagogue
on high holidays.
That they saw Sean Green, yeah. And you know, it might have been true. For all we know, he was doing a circuit and walking between all of them. You know, there's a lot of synagogue. You could definitely hit like 7 or 8 just walking in the Bathurst Nicholson area if you wanted to.
If you can't swing you can't swing a Sean Green without hitting a synagogue in the Bathurst Nicholson.
Can't swing a dead chicken without hitting a synagogue. Anyways, the only person who comes like a little bit close is Raul Mondesi, who Sean Green was traded for. But really, I think Sean Green, like the greatest Dodger Jay of all time. Obviously one of the great Jewish players. And if you're listening to our podcast, I assume you know who Sean Green is.
Yes. And if
for
you're
those who
listening
don't,
to this podcast and are Sean Green, we'd love to have you on the show.
I would say, I think it's fair to say probably the best Jewish hitter post Hank Greenberg.
Pre Ryan Braun.
You know, I would say Hank Greenberg and then Sean Green. He's chronologically.
He was the bridge. He was the bridge from Greenberg to Braun, really.
Yeah, I mean, there's Ron Bloomberg and some other guys from the 70s and 80s, but you know, until Sean Green was the next best to Hank Greenberg, and then after him, I would say Kinsler and Bregman sort of carrying on that tradition. He's a wiry guy. He was never a big guy. It's amazing that he hit so many home runs, and part of it might have just been like the way baseball was being played in the steroid era. I don't think anyone ever accused Sean of engaging in PEDs, and he never looked it. You know what I mean? Like he's always been like a sort of had more of a endurance athlete build.
Yes. Yeah, he was very tall and lean, but that gives him a lot of torque.
And played, in Toronto, LA, Arizona, New York, all the some of the most Jewish fan bases.
That's true. That is about as Jewish as it gets. Those four places. So game 1 of the Sean Green series is tonight. In case you're watching or reading this right as it comes out, it's October 24th. This weekend, it is during Shabbos. If you're allowed to have a TV on, if you are the TV with the Shabbos people, maybe tonight would be an excuse to get, I don't want to say the word, but a Shabbos helper to come and turn on the television for you so you can watch the game if you're not. But you'll notice, right behind home plate, we have a very familiar Jewish face. He's been sitting behind home plate for decades for the Blue Jays game. Canadian rock and roll legend Geddy Lee and Canadian acting legend Eugene Levy have both been seen behind the plate, a lot lately. During the broadcast of Game 7 on Monday, they were often shown with the wringing their hands anxiety face, waiting, to see what would happen in the game. But there's lots of Jewish fans you'll see, particularly 2 of the most famous Canadian Jews will be there. I would be shocked if on the Fox broadcast tonight there wasn't some mention of Geddy Lee and Eugene Levy. There's always the celebrities watching the Dodgers games, and that's who the Jays have. They're the Jews. I know the Weeknd has been involved. He is not Jewish, but you'll see Geddy. Watch out for Geddy in the top left behind the plate and Eugene in the bottom right. You'll see both of them pointing and looking around as the Jays try and win today.
Yeah, you and I did a podcast back in 2019 after the Raptors won when the Raptors were winning the championship, about how the most famous sports fan in the world at the time was Drake, was a Jewish Torontonian, and the pride that gave us a little bit. I haven't seen Drake as much with the Jays. I know he's a fan, and I think he's posted Instagram celebrating, but wouldn't be surprised to see him at a game, see him on the broadcast.
Absolutely. And Geddy's got a tour to promote.
Right.
He's
that's true. Rush is back on tour next year.
Rush is back on tour with a new drummer, who is a German woman who I think is going to be the only woman at each Rush show. But there is going to be a pretty good, there's a reason for Geddy to be on TV.
Yeah, I can't think of a famous Dodgers fan really who's Jewish, except for Larry King, who passed away, was often seen right behind home plate.
Lou Adler. Lou Adler is my thought, who sits immediately behind home plate wearing his beret and silly beard. If you notice a Jewish man in a white beret who's sitting right behind home plate, that is legendary music producer Lou Adler at every Dodgers game. Mary Hart is not Jewish, from what I understand. But she also sits right there.
One last thing about the World Series, we were told about that we wanted to mention. There's a little bet on the line between 2 rabbis, one in LA, one in Toronto. Rabbi Jared Grover, who's the senior rabbi at Beth Tikva here in Toronto, and
that's of which my grandfather is a founding member, I should mention. And I should also say our podcast sibling Rivka Campbell is the president. Right. So Rabbi Jared Grover, lots of connections to the Menschwarmers.
Yes, so he's the senior rabbi at Beth Tikva, and he has made a bet with his longtime friend, Rabbi Erez Sherman of Sinai Temple in Los Angeles, who, it should be said, actually grew up a Jays fan because he grew up in Syracuse. But they have made a bet on the World Series. A nice thing that we see from time to time. Often mayors will do it. I think the San Diego and Toronto zoos once had a bet on something that involves some trading animals. But along with some charitable donation. The rabbi from the losing city is going to have to win in the winning team's jersey during synagogue services. So I am hoping, Beth Tikva congregants, that you will not see Rabbi Grover in a Dodgers jersey. I am very much hoping that Sinai Temple LA congregants will see Rabbi Sherman in a Jays jersey soon.
Yes.
I don't know exactly who would pick. I think Rowdy Tellez would be a great choice.
Or Spencer Horwitz with 48 on his back.
Yeah. Hard to find some of those on the retail on the resale market, but
I've been looking for a Scott Feldman jersey for 10 years and I can't find anything.
Yeah, that's right. So some great Jewish angles in the World Series. Really excited as Toronto fans, obviously. And maybe Sean Green will be in attendance at some point in LA or in Toronto.
In LA or in Toronto, who knows?
Hope we see him on TV. Gabe, I know we have an exciting interview coming up. I wasn't able to join, unfortunately, but you were joined by our, I believe, third time guest, Dave.
Third time guest.
Yeah.
Our first third time guest is a soccer expert and broadcaster, MLS lifer, not lifer, but MLS expert. Kahuna David Goss, who came on to talk about the Bruigus in Birmingham, as we christen it inside the interview. For those of you who don't know, Maccabi Tel Aviv was scheduled to play a game in Birmingham over the next little while. And the city of Birmingham has decided that they do not want to allow Maccabi Tel Aviv fans to attend the game. If you remember last year in Amsterdam, Maccabi Tel Aviv played a game which led to, I think, what everyone would decide was a disaster. And Birmingham, claims they want to avoid something like that. We go deep into it with Dave as well. Immediately following, there was a riot at a Maccabi Tel Aviv game in Tel Aviv. Right. The Tel Aviv derby between Hapoel and Maccabi also had it was, I guess, a disaster, you could say it. So there's lots of discussion as to what caused that and why, and what the take is from there.
I can only imagine that it's inflamed in some degree by the fact that both teams use the same stadium. So it's like for both supporters, they probably feel like this is our turf. There's a lot of
absolutely. It's a big part of it, and they fall really neatly along political lines as well. The fans of each team, Maccabi, which is, we'll get there, but it's pretty closely affiliated nowadays with Netanyahu. And there's a lot of discussion over his role in Israeli politics that is spilling its way onto the soccer field.
Interesting. Well, I'm excited to listen along with everyone. Why don't we go now to our interview with Dave?
So we're here with soccer expert, footy aficionado, David Goss, I should say. So a lot of our listeners are wondering, there's two big stories that have happened in the last week, let's say, that involve Israeli soccer teams, specifically Maccabi Tel Aviv. First, there's some Bruigus in Birmingham, we should keep that as a headline. And second, there was an incident in actual Tel Aviv involving Maccabi Tel Aviv and the Tel Aviv Derby. So let's start in the Anglosphere. What is happening in England?
I think where we have to start is the fact that all Maccabi fans are dogs, because I'm a Hapoel fan. Hapoel. So that's where we need to start this entire conversation, although I am wearing blue right now.
So you're saying like Maccabi Tel Aviv fans should be banned from everywhere, not because they're Israeli, but because they've picked the wrong team.
Exactly, because they are trash. Although, I guess anyone listening who's not a soccer fan should understand that soccer teams are not like American and Canadian pro sports teams where there's one in a city and that's the team that plays the sport. They're all built out of sports clubs. So anyone who was a part of a JCC, that would have been grown into a professional soccer team in many places. But those clubs are really specific to communities. So, famous teams, Inter Milan and AC Milan. AC Milan didn't allow non-Italians to play in their sports club in 1902. So then foreign students at the university created a new team called Internazionale Milan that allowed foreigners. So that stuff still is a through line into cultures nowadays. So that is something to note. Hapoel is the far left team. It is based out of the Union, same as the Hapoel Maccabi sports clubs all throughout Israel. There are multiple teams that are Hapoel. There are multiple teams that are Maccabi. So there is not a pure coincidence. Yes, some people are far left and sports fans of Maccabi. Some people are far right and sports fans of Hapoel Tel Aviv. That happens, but it's probably less common than, oh, I'm a Mets fan, I'm a Yankees fan, even though I'm anti-capitalist and the Yankees are the big spending team, all that type of stuff. So it is related and it is connected to an extent. But what happened in England was that there is a European competition game coming up in which Maccabi Tel Aviv will play against Aston Villa, which is located in Birmingham. And the way the process works is that there are local police and community organizations that have to like sign off and pass the fact that you can have this game and bring fans. It's not really something in this way that has ever come up before in which a team is banned by these parts of the organization. But what happened?
And how do they bring fans? Do the fans like get on the plane with the team from Israel and show up, or is it British fans who happen to be Maccabi Tel Aviv fans, or is it both, or is it some?
So the way it happens for a soccer game is the away team will get a section of fans. Those tickets are distributed by the away team. They're distributed in different ways, but for the most part, the official fan groups of clubs are official organizations, and they work hand in hand with the clubs that they support. Some countries, like Argentina and Italy, they threaten and control the clubs. In others, it's a bit more liberal and easier to operate and be around. And then those tickets are redistributed to fans, whether it's through season ticket packages, whether it is through these ultra groups, which have their own memberships and their own paid subscriptions, or it's sold into some internal process. Whoever ends up in that section is to the purview of the club that is bringing the fans, how they choose to sell, how they choose to distribute them. And it is in the rules that you are allowed those sections. And it is also then on the necessity of the host team and the host place to protect those fans. It's not uncommon
and that would be
to have fights at soccer games.
Yes, I'm aging myself here.
The Green Street Hooligans?
I know I'm going to sound like my parents, but like there's something about traveling football groups that like always feels a little fascistic.
Yeah.
Of just like a group of people that want to show up and get in a fight in the top corner of a stadium in a different city.
You have to be pretty committed to say, I'm going to spend my vacation on a Wednesday night to Birmingham, England.
Yes. And I know most of what I know about Birmingham comes from the television show Line of Duty, which is where there are a lot of dirty cops in Birmingham.
Nice.
Or as they call them, bent coppers. There's a lot of bent coppers in Birmingham. So the police have, they've decided it's not worth it to bring the resources to either protect to or from Israeli soccer fans.
So what they say is that based off the research that they were given and the examples they were given of the past, they didn't feel that it was safe. And this was geared towards Maccabi fans' past violence across other stadiums over the last few years. And so the statement that has been made is that it has nothing to do with the origin of the fans. It has nothing to do with anything else. It is that Maccabi fans are considered violent fans right now, and they go into a group with Feyenoord fans from the Netherlands who are also banned from games. It goes into Chelsea fans who are banned from games at times. So that is what was stated. It then got co-opted because I don't know if you've heard, but things around Israel and Jews kind of tends to go run its course nowadays. And England's not really the place where we're having the best conversations about it either. And it went around and round in circles and circles.
To me, I find it all like, you don't think about Maccabi Tel Aviv fans, at least I don't think about them as being historically particularly violent, mostly because I don't think, and this is my problem, but I've never thought about Israeli soccer to be like as much of a cultural effect as it is in the Netherlands or in England. Like when I think of Israeli sports, I think of basketball. I think now more and more I think of baseball. And soccer has always been there. It's always been part of it, but I didn't know that the ultras carried such a reputation.
Did you know about the Beitar Yerushalayim fans before this?
Yes.
Okay.
I did. Yeah. I heard about them. Please. Well, I know what you're talking about, but in case Jamie and the others don't, let's get a recap.
So Beitar is the big team in Jerusalem, and they have been the team of the far right since I've been following soccer. And they've been associated with political parties off and on.
Ben Gvir Jerusalem, am I right?
Yeah, 100%. And they've been associated with Bibi and his political parties off and on for years. And when you say that around soccer, like you are talking about the people who are going to march in the streets in favor of people, the people who are going to go and get into other protests that are counter protests. Like that's how the fans then do that. And Jerusalem was famous. Beitar was famous for never having an Arab based or Arab player or a Muslim player for the longest time. They actually have now. They the first breakthrough was they signed 2 Chechen players or something bizarre like that, where the players were not from anywhere from Israel, but they were famously hardline on that. And so that political bent has always existed. That extremism to an extent has always existed. And yeah, people like to go to soccer games and fight, and that's a thing. That's a way the world functions. But I would agree with you that Israel was not on an extreme, and Israeli fans were not on an extreme of that at any time. And it was not as prevalent inside of Israel that these things were going to happen. But in saying that, we're going to talk about the Tel Aviv derby. That game had been banned for a little while because of fears of violence. And there has been stories in the past where there has been clashes of violence.
Past. It has been banned. It was canceled this past Tuesday. As we talked about, Hapoel and Maccabi were scheduled to play a game. And it seems like just before the game started, and there's a lot of conflicting,
Isn't that fun?
As there would be, there's a lot of conflicting arguments over who threw the first bottle at whom, or who threw the first flashbang grenade or smoke bomb or whatever.
There's 3 culprits, by the way. There's Maccabi fans, there's Hapoel fans, and then the belief is that the police instigated it against Hapoel fans because Ben Gvir is the head of the police, and Hapoel is the far left of the supporter groups, and Hapoel Tel Aviv are the biggest Hapoel team. Although Hapoel Beersheva have been really successful from a fan base point of view, that's the biggest one. Maccabi Haifa is also a fairly left-leaning fan base, and it is historically the largest Arab or Muslim base.
Haifa's a little crunchy.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
but they also did for long times had big time Muslim or Arab players that were stars, and a lot of them were homegrown and came from the area. But again, that's all just the vibes of Haifa.
Yes, I was about to say, you stare at the ocean all day. You're up on the hill, it's all vibes.
Well, if you're in the Baha'i Gardens, everything's in balance.
Everything's sababa. That's it's all kol beseder in Haifa. I think, like we talked about, there's police breaking up the riots. Not to get too political here, but it feels like, to a little bit, as you mentioned, it reflects politics. There's been an undercurrent of political, not violence, but there's a bubble going on in Israel right now where the two sides of the political spectrum are really, I don't want to say at odds, but there's a lot to fight over at the moment. And you wonder if going to fight at a soccer game to some degree is what people see as a safe space to get a lot of aggression out until the police start cracking heads.
And historically, the place that soccer held was the one place where you could organize. And so when you look at countries in history where there have been attempts to be dictators, totalitarian, close things down, it was the one place where people could break out of that. So the famous stories are in Barcelona, it was the only place you could hear Catalanese and not be arrested was at the new camp because they just couldn't police it. And then there are famous stories in, behind the Iron Curtain in Hungary and in Poland and in all of that. And then I think most relevant to probably Israel is the Arab Spring. It started in Tunisia, but the real explosion in Egypt was the Al-Ahly fans showing up to Tahrir Square and being a major part of the protests and being the professional protesters, where they were no, this is how you fight police. This is how you deal with tear gas. And there has been
know how to do all of
massive repercussions for that. There was a massacre in a stadium that it's felt that the police entrapped the fans and then allowed them to be beat up and attacked when they were away at Port Said. And there's been examples of this in Turkey and other places. So I think as you're talking about that bubbling up political scene, there are a lot of people in Israel who probably see that as well internally and say, well, if I want to make a difference or if I want to be a part of something, this is how you do it. You join an ultra group, you go to the game, and you fight for your cause.
Totally, right? There's we've both talked at length and read the book Among the Thugs by Bill Buford. By the way, your look these days is very Bill Buford.
I've actually never read the book.
This is an auditory medium, but David has got the sort of salt and pepper beard going on. Um,
I'm just one of the lads.
So it's a book about basically, the journalist Bill Buford, not Jewish, unfortunately, goes and joins the Chelsea firm. And a lot of it involves flying around Europe with drunk people beating people up.
And doing a lot of drugs. They did a lot of drugs back then.
And at the time, in the late 80s, Chelsea was quite a racist group. They were like outwardly racist, involved with the National Front very closely. And he, like, for the sake of the book, had to pretend to be racist for a while. And like they basically, they part of it is people wanted to go because it was a way they could safely beat up Italians and beat up Jews. They would they'd get in fights with the Jewish Tottenham fans. They'd get in fights. A big portion of the book is they go in whatever the predecessor of the Champions League was, some
UEFA
international,
Cup. European
UEFA Cup.
Whatever.
They go to Torino and fight Juventus fans until like the riot spills out on the street. And then, in the middle of the fight, everyone sort of gets tired and starts drinking. So it's like, it's a place, people can do this. And it's interesting to me. It's very interesting that at least in Israel at all, that the police got involved altogether. It's that they don't sort of let them fight it out, or at least like try and shut it down instead of, as at least Hapoel fans are saying, instigate or escalated it.
Yeah, it's this like fascinating thing that happens in the world of soccer where it's like you can't turn it off because then everyone's mad at you. And so we all play this game where it's like it has to be monitored, but like fans have a right to be there and fans have a right to do things. Whenever it spills over, everyone always goes like violence is bad. But then like a week later, it's like, well, fans have a right and fans have a right. And it is this constant fight with these false flag claims of like, well, did the government really do this so that fans can't go? And, but I think if you look at it, most of the rivalries in the world, the fan bases are the story. But like Celtic Rangers, which is Catholic versus Protestant in Scotland,
in Glasgow,
those games are all start at 11 a.m. local time now. Because they are too scared to let people drink all day or have the game end at night. And it is like pretty well known. Like if you wear green or blue in the wrong neighborhood on those days, doesn't matter what you're wearing, you're in trouble. And so like this is the history of the sport, and this is the culture and nature around it sometimes.
I'm curious your thoughts. How come they don't just play the game with no fans? Could they not just continue the game and lock the doors? I don't, remember this is years ago, and this was a Nazi problem. But when Roma had some Nazi fans, they just didn't let them sell tickets for a while.
And that happens. There are games that happen behind closed doors. It's not uncommon. I mean, Israel has been hosting games, home games, quote unquote, in foreign countries for a little while because of the war. But it's not uncommon to like have fans be banned for a game or two or three, or for a team to be banned from hosting from European competition. Like all these types of things, because there's strikes that come against you and how often it happens and all of that. But it's not the product anyone wants. It's not the experience anyone wants. And like, this is what the people who are organizing it are selling. They are selling the experience. They're selling the TV experience is also enhanced when the fans are there. So people don't want that.
Yeah. I mean, it's very true. You think about like the way crazy fandom is. We talk, as hardcore as the ultras get, and you wish everyone would be more like that Man U guy who won't cut his hair.
Yeah. Until they win a game. It took them like 2 years.
They win 5 in a row.
Yeah.
He's waiting till he did not cut his hair until they win 5 in a row. I don't think he's Jewish. He's got the hair, but I don't think he's Jewish.
I don't think so.
But that's, to me, that's like appropriate fan behavior. That's the kind of crazy stuff that gets you noticed, but not beat up.
Yeah.
I mean, he's like 2.5 years into his project now.
I think this is why you wouldn't last very long in an ultras section.
No, me personally?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I would last about 5 minutes. I cheer for our local soccer team, Toronto FC. You and I have attended a game of theirs together.
Which, by the way, there are fans that are there that try to act like this. They cover their face, they wear masks, they bring smoke. Like this exists throughout sports fandom, or is at least soccer fandom everywhere. I mean, look, I live in Miami right now. Copa America final. You had fans charging through the gates, climbing through air conditioners to get in. Like, it's right here. It's not foreign. It's just here in the U.S.
Was that at the Hard Rock Stadium?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
You have to
Or
shout
what
out
used to be
Stephen
the
Ross
Land
for
Shark.
being a Jew.
Yes. No, not right now. We didn't talk directly about the Dolphins.
Okay.
We'll get there. We usually, and if you hear our playoff previews, we share very quickly who the players are and then who the owners
Yeah.
are. Because we tend as a people to be much higher, but not quite on the field, but in the suite. But I think that's a pretty good place to leave the conversation. Thank you so much for giving us the update and sort of what's going on in all over the world. And just so we can go before your opinion, violent fans or not, regardless, let's take for a minute, they're not Israeli, they're not Jewish. Do you think it's an appropriate thing to ban foreign violent fans from attending a game locally, whether or not Birmingham is filled with bent coppers, as Line of Duty would let us to believe?
It is not outside the realm of the way things have happened in the past to ban fans from a specific club because of the fear that it could be overwhelming violence. And all of this comes in.
It's not like tennis fans in Halifax, for example.
No.
Because, about 3 months ago, the Israeli tennis, they got no fans for they played it behind closed doors. The Israeli match in the Davis Cup was in Halifax, Canada.
Classic Halifax, the hotbed that
I know.
it is.
And they did it behind closed doors because
they lost
in
the opening round of the CPL playoffs this week, which is
Halifax
a huge hit to the Halifax Tides. Yeah. All of this comes in the context, which is Maccabi Tel Aviv had an away game in Amsterdam last year, and I think everyone remembers what happened, and it was a riot, and there were attacks, and it was this like 12-hour, 36-hour thing that occurred, which was really outside the realm of soccer. Like it was not happening between two fan bases inside the stadium. And so I think that played into it and all of it played into it. But there's a lot going on in the soccer world. UEFA and FIFA have a lot of pushes to ban Israel or Israeli teams from competing. And so this is coming up more often. So it's not common, and I've never seen it done in this exact way where like the local police organizing is the one that said it. There have been times where games get canceled because police will say we can't staff. Like you can't say, okay, the Red Sox are going to have a big game this weekend and the Boston Marathon's happening. And it's like, okay, it is what it is. Sometimes in other countries, they will say like, we physically can't do both of these because we don't have enough people.
Police to be there.
So I've seen that happen before and them either move the day or move the game or something like that. But I've never seen it happen in this way. I will throw out there for anyone listening who's interested, Israeli soccer is like approaching its an all-time high right now. And so if you are intrigued by any of this, there is a lot of good players that are coming out. Israel went toe-to-toe with Italy in World Cup qualifying. They probably won't qualify, but they're going to get as close as they've gotten. And there are actually a lot of players playing right now in the US and Canada from Israel, the most that there have ever been. So if you are intrigued by any of it.
The U19 team made a run at the World Cup last year.
Yes, the U19 team won the European Championship, so qualifies for the U20 World Cup, and then they made it to the U20 World Cup final, and a few members of that team have come to Major League Soccer now. So there's a lot of really good players.
Yeah, who should we look out for? If you're an Israeli soccer fan, who should you look out for in North America?
So Dor Tugerman, who was the star center forward who scored against Brazil in the U20 World Cup, he just signed a deal with the New England Revolution, so he'll play for Robert Kraft at Gillette Stadium. He already scored. He only joined the team for the end of the season. He already scored twice, and then Eli Feingold was another young signing they made who was one of their best performers the whole season. They had a bad year. Ty Baribo plays center forward.
He sounds Jewish, Eli Feingold. Though Ty Baribo's been around for a while.
Yeah, Ty Baribo, but this year he led the team in goals and they won the regular season. So this has been his best season so far. There's another player, Liel Abada, who plays down in Charlotte, who got bought for like $10 million. Is one of the most expensive signings in the club's history. And actually, their center forward right now is Idan Toklamati, whose father came to Israel from, I want to say, Benin in Africa to play professionally, married an Israeli, had a child, named the child Idan. And
that's amazing.
And Toklamati is awesome. He's been one of the best young players in the league. And this is not the whole list. Like in the past, I think there were like 3 Israeli players that played in MLS across 20 years. And now there are 15 in the league right now.
So I think you sort of nailed it that we, if you were cheering just for the Jews in North American soccer, the New England Revolution seemed to be the team to cheer for. Robert Kraft, not been on the show, but a friend of the pod.
But David Tepper and 2 in Charlotte, so.
Yes, that's true. David Tepper, another man you sort of look like.
If only I had the money.
Yes, I know. I mentioned that that Dora Tugerman, Eli Feingold, and Matt Turner, Jewish goalkeeper for the national team, is also now on the New England Revolution.
Yes.
Which, going into next season, they'll have at least 3 Jewish players, which is pretty exciting. Great David Tepper story. I don't know if you know this, but he was fired from Goldman Sachs when he was a young man. And allegedly, when he became a billionaire, he bought the childhood home of the man who fired him and burnt it down.
I believe every second from every person I've known who's worked for David Tepper, and most of them have done it for at most 3 months. That lines up with everything I have heard. I mean, he built this huge training ground for the Panthers, and he got one town to give him money, and 75% of the way in, he's like, "Nah, I'm done," and just left it. And there's this construction site somewhere in, I don't know. I think it might actually be in South Carolina where it ended up being located.
Well, if he is the money to do it, he can do it. He really is the definition of FU money.
Yeah, he flaunts it in that exact way, and all of his sports teams are bad because of it. Maybe he shouldn't be choosing quarterbacks or coaches.
Yeah, maybe not. But that's his privilege, right? That's the Jerry Jones of it all.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for the chat. We appreciate you. Love. You're welcome back anytime, as always.
Well, thanks again to Dave for joining us. Really interesting interview, Gabe. Really interesting to hear about Robert Kraft and the New England Revolution. Seemingly on a quest to get every Jew and Israeli player on the team
that he possibly can. Oh, it is. I mean, he's a man on a mission. He's got his foundation, and maybe he finally went on the March of the Living at age 80 and decided that it was time to bring as many Israelis to America as he could.
Yeah. Before we go, I just want to touch on a few more items in the news. It's the PGA fall. I would say the less illustrious part of the PGA calendar, but it's the Bank of Utah Championship right now. Where's it playing? It's somewhere in Utah, I assume, right?
It's at the Black Rock Resort in tiny town in Utah.
Yeah, and first time PGA appearance for Gavin Cohen. He's been a sort of long time, minor league golfer.
Korn Ferry Tour player making his debut. A actual Arizona born and raised Jew.
Yeah.
He Monday qualified. You can find his bar mitzvah photos in the Tucson Jewish News, which is, that's a real good local boy.
Yeah, he Monday qualified, which means that, they have an open tournament sort of for the last few people, and he shot a really good round. I think he came in third in the Monday qualifier. So he had his first round yesterday. And the tournament, as we are taping, is currently co-led by David Lipsky, who has really, had some close shots at winning.
For a while. He's on the cusp.
Yeah. And, for someone who I think I think he was sort of off the tour for a little while. He's been back on for the last several years. He's had a decent run. It's not always huge success, but he had a tie for third at 3M and a tie for third at John Deere, where he was right in the hunt on Sunday. Mm-hmm. So we'll see how he does today. He had a second to the Pro Core last year, which is another one of these sort of later season tournaments that someone who is not necessarily going to compete for majors can compete for. And winning a tournament is huge. Winning a PGA tournament is huge in terms of your exemptions, in terms of the events it allows you to play next year. So really excited to watch this weekend and see how David does.
He's currently making a living at, he made $1.3 million last year, 91st on the FedEx Cup. World ranking is about 100th in the world, which means he's solidly on tour. He's keeping his card. He's making a living. He's not a superstar, but he is absolutely at age 37 having a living in professional golf, which is a rare and very impressive thing.
Yeah. And one last thing before we go, I wanted to mention the NBA season is underway. The Brooklyn Nets played their first game and a loss to the Charlotte Hornets. How any team can ever lose to Charlotte Hornets is a question that the FBI has been asking recently.
And Dave Goss, Dave mentioned it in the interview too, as right. You know.
But it was the first appearance of Ben Saraf. He started, which is great. He's ostensibly the starting point guard for the Brooklyn Nets for the time being. He had 8 points and 7 rebounds, along with 4 assists. Unfortunately, Danny Wolf injured his ankle during shoot around and couldn't play, so he was do not play. It seems like that was just truly like a something sore. Let's not hurt anybody. So hoping to see Danny this weekend, early next week, in his NBA debut. I think everyone, Jewish sports fans, is a reason to tune into Brooklyn right now. It's certainly not to watch quality basketball, but it is to watch two Jewish and Jewish Israeli ostensibly NBA players make their starts.
I'm just excited to see a 7-foot tall redhead play in the NBA again. It's been a while since Matt Bonner retired, so we need a new red rocket.
That's true.
Maybe we shouldn't call an Israeli a rocket. That's not a good thing.
Maybe,
but
fair enough.
Denny, you get a new red mamba.
Yeah. I'm excited about basketball season enough that like I will occasionally stay up for a West Coast game, and I watched a fair amount of Portland's first game. Denny Avdija looked great. He scored 20 points. He shot not great, but the ball was in his hand a lot. The ball is going to go through him a lot on Portland. So
let's hope whatever the new coaching situation is, that is true. Denny lost his coach yesterday.
That's true.
For a similar reason why somebody lost to Charlotte, I assume.
Very, very bizarre. Interesting times for sports gambling in the NBA, especially. Anyways, whether you're a fan of some other team or not, I think blue J. It's very Jewish associated. The color, yes. the letter.
You'll see a lot of blue and white around Toronto this week. Don't worry, don't get too excited. Not everyone has come to their senses, but there is a lot of Jewish cheering going on. Or a lot of Jewish fans cheering for the Blue Jays and wearing blue and white.
That's right. That was very uplifting. Being in a rally of fans after Game 7, completely ensconced in blue and white on Monday. So hopefully we get some more of that over the next week or so. Thanks for listening. As always, we're brought to you by the Canadian Jewish News. You can find all our podcasts, articles, everything else on the Canadian Jewish News website, thecjn.ca. We're executive produced by Michael Fraiman. And find us on Twitter at Menschwarmers for whatever our insightful takes and tweets on links of stuff going on in Jews and sports. Thanks for listening.